Gunfire Games just revealed the new Remnant 2 archetype, the Invoker, which is releasing on April 23rd with their latest DLC, The Forgotten Kingdom, and it is a doozy. This archetype is amazing and has a lot of cool aspects that are going to synergize well with other archetypes already in the game. But before we do a deep dive, let's take a look at the reveal trailer.
Being aware of your surroundings is essential in Remnant 2. But being in tune with the environment is something entirely more powerful. This is Tragic from Gunfire Games. Introducing the Invoker. Drawing strength from the nature spirits of Yesha, the Invoker can harness the mystic power of the jungle. Their perks are based around skill usage, the centerpiece being their prime perk, Visionary. This grants the Invoker double skill charges for any equipped archetype and reduces skill cooldowns. And when it comes to skills, the Invoker thrives. Their first skill, Way of Keula, is all about making it rain. Literally. The Invoker summons a rainstorm followed by a powerful tidal wave. Enemies caught in the downpour are drenched and subsequently slowed and intermittently blasted by lightning. Allies, on the other hand, they gain haste. Their second skill, Way of Madra, sees the Invoker reinvigorate the very ground they stand on. Enemies within the cleansed area contract Gloom, which increases elemental damage taken. Allies gain a small burst of healing, a small but constant heal over time, and gain lifesteal against affected enemies. Their third skill, Way of Lydusa, empowers the Invoker with the shredding power of sand. Ranged and melee damage inflicts Brittle, increasing critical chance and critical damage. Additional damage chips off parts of the enemy, empowering a brutal AoE Sandblast. Rounding out their kit is the archetype trait, Gifted. It increases the duration of all applicable skills. A perfect unlock for those who want or need a bit more time to take advantage of Remnant's many powerful archetype buffs. Players looking for an archetype that can fit in any build will be right at home with the Invoker, an incredible hybrid fueled by the power of nature. Welcome to the jungle.
I was absolutely giddy watching this trailer because Invoker is everything I could have asked for in a nature summoner. They harness those mystic powers of the jungle and they are invoking devastating storms of lightning, water, and earth. And I'm just upset that I can only choose one skill at a time, but I love to see new, unique debuffs that we're getting from the skills that perhaps we could also get in some of our weapon mods or boss mods in the weapons in the DLC. And I'm not going to say I told you so. However, yesterday, and I just noticed this, I posted at 11:11 yesterday, but I said that the vines at their feet in the picture they posted reminded me of the Warden class from Elder Scrolls Online. I don't know if you guys play that game, but I've played it for a long time, and I really enjoy the Warden. It's one of my favorite new classes that they've added, and it has this kind of tree ultimate that does a lot of healing. Now, the Warden in ESO is major on the healing aspect. Obviously, there's different ways you can build classes in that game. However, looking at the archetype trailer, the Way of Madra, which is the second Invoker skill that you can unlock, looks a lot like this skill in ESO, so I wasn't too far off. But we're going to go through this trailer and break it down. I'm going to show you guys all of the perks and the skills as well, because those were posted to Twitter as well from Ben Kirton, aka Tragic, the principal designer for Remnant 2.
But being in tune with the environment is something entirely more powerful.
First of all, can I just say the range attacks with the melee is highly appreciated because we only have a few range melee weapons and I keep that Krell axe on me no matter what. So having another melee weapon that can do range damage like this is amazing.
This is Tragic from Gunfire Games. Introducing the Invoker.
The animation is similar to the Doe staff, which I guess makes sense because they're both from Yesha. All right, here's another close-up look of the crossbow.
Can harness
A little bit more of a look there. We still haven't seen the mod, I don't
drawing
think.
strength from the nature spirits
Reloading.
of Geisha. The invoker can harness the mystic
Pulling
power
all
of
three
the
out
jungle.
at once.
Their perks are based around skill usage.
We can see a lot of
centerpiece being
lightning,
your
we can
prime
see
perk,
the water
Visionary.
tidal wave,
This grant
and now we've got the prime perk. Let's go back. Visionary is the prime perk for this archetype, doubles base skill charges for all archetypes. Skill activation reduces all skill cooldowns by 10%. And then for heavy weapons, which is the engineer turret, you're going to get double your base ammo, which is crazy because this prime perk also stacks on top of the hyperconductor amulet. If you guys are unfamiliar with that, that also doubles your base skill charges for all archetypes. So those two stack on top of each other if you just want to have a crazy amount of skill charges that you can use back and forth between two archetypes.
This grants the invoker double skill charges for any equipped archetype and reduces skill cooldowns.
Right,
when it
and it's
comes
going to
to
reduce skill cooldowns as well, which is crazy. Ooh, that green looks sick. So before we talk about the skills, let's look at the Invoker Archetype's perks, their prime perk, damage perk, team perk, etc. This was posted on Twitter. We already know their prime perk is doubling the base skill charges that we just talked about. Their damage perk increases skill damage by 30%, elemental damage by 15%, and skill and elemental critical chance by 5%. So this makes me want to pick another archetype that has elemental damage in their skill because you're going to be taking advantage of the entire perk that way. Thinking about something like Ritualist that applies those elemental buffs, or Archon perhaps. Then we take a look at the team perk, reduces skill cooldowns by 1% and heals 2% max health once every 3 seconds for allies once an invoker skill is active. This is an amazing team perk to get skill cooldown for your entire team and heals you once every 3 seconds while your skill is active. And Invoker also has a skill that will do healing as well. I think Invoker Medic, or probably Medic and then Invoker, is going to be a crazy combo when this DLC comes out. And that's the first combo that I'm going to be trying personally. And then next up for the utility perk, increases movement speed by 5% and damage reduction by 5% while a skill is active. This isn't anything game changing, but it's just a utility perk. Movement speed is nice. The damage reduction is probably more useful, to be honest. And this is when an evoker skill is active. Same with your team perk as well. So keep that in mind. It's not when any skill is active, it is the Invoker Archetype skill that you've chosen. And then we move on to the Relic perk. On Relic use, extend the duration of active Invoker skills by 20% of the base duration, and you cannot exceed the base duration. Relic use speed increased by 25% when an Invoker skill is active. So the Relic use speed is going to be insane with Medic as well. That is going to help Medic out a lot with those heal builds and getting those relics consumed, because a lot of times you don't want to take time out of the fight to consume a relic to help heal your team, but in a lot of the harder fights, it can help so much if you're running in a team and you're running on a harder difficulty and you run Medic and you're just eating relics for your team. Believe me, I've been there, done that. But it's also going to extend the duration of the active Invoker skills. And those active Invoker skills are also going to keep this utility perk and the team perk active. So it's all kind of synergizing together. All right, let's go back to the trailer and let's talk about the skills.
The Invoker thrives. Their first skill, Way of Keula, is all about making it rain.
So Wave of Keula has that tidal wave that you recognize from the Keula mini boss, the dungeon boss.
Tidal wave. Enemies caught in the downpour are drenched and subsequently slowed and intermittently blasted by lightning.
So that is the effect of Drench, what Ben said right there. Reduces their movement speed by 10%, whoever's affected by Drench, and every few seconds lightning strikes them, dealing a base shock damage, and that's split among the drenched targets. So that's going to happen every few seconds, and then your allies inside the rainstorm are going to gain haste, which is an amazing bonus to that as well.
Second skill, Way of Madra, sees the Invoker reinvigorate the very ground they stand on. Enemies within the cleansed area contract gloom. which increases
So
elemental
Gloom
damage
is
taken.
another debuff that we're getting here, one for each of their skills, as you can see the pattern. But Way of Maedra Archetype skill, heal all of your allies for 20% of their max health over the second and a half and conjure a 20-meter force growth for 20 seconds. After it fully blooms, allies in the force growth heal for 2% max health per second and gain 3% of base damage dealt as lifesteal. And then the enemies that are inside of that AoE are going to have the Gloom debuff, which increases incoming elemental damage by 15%. So this is great for your allies as well. It's an awesome debuff to put on your allies because for the most part, everyone's running some sort of elemental damage usually, especially after Ritualist was our most recent archetype that we got in the last DLC. So not only will this skill heal you, but it's also going to give you lifesteal. Your allies' lifesteal increases incoming elemental damage that the enemies take, so it's a good way to kind of combat elemental resist modifiers on bosses if you're running an elemental build. And I think overall it looks like a really solid skill.
Their third skill, Way of Lydusa, empowers the Invoker with the shredding power of sand. Ranged and melee damage inflicts brittle, increasing critical chance and critical damage.
Now this one, Way of Lydusa, the last and final archetype skill for Invoker, is gonna infuse your ranged and melee damage with the power of a brittle, and brittle increases incoming crit chance by 5% and critical damage by 5%. So this skill is going to pair really well for people that want to do lots of damage, like those gunslingers and those hunters out there. If you have a build that is all centered around your weapons, then I think Way of Lydusa is going to be a great pick. You basically are going to be applying these sand devils. You're going to be generating sand devils every time you deal damage or kills, and then when you hit that skill button again, it's going to consume all of them and cast a 15-meter sand blast, dealing 100 elemental damage per charge, max 10 charges. And obviously that all scales on stuff that you have
empowering a brutal AoE sandblast. Rounding out their kit is the archetype trait, Gifted. It increases the duration of all applicable skills.
And then the last thing we see here is the trait that you unlock for Invoker, which increases your skill duration by 30%, which is also amazing. That is going to be pretty much a must-have on a lot of different builds. I can foresee that for sure. Honestly, Gunfire Games cooked so hard with this archetype. Ritualist was amazing too, is amazing. They are just pumping out banger archetypes for us, and it makes me so excited to pick up the game, play through the DLC, and then also try out some different combos. Again, you can purchase this DLC, which includes the Invoker Archetype, for $9.99. I will be streaming the DLC release on Tuesday around noon Eastern time is when I'm assuming it goes live. I don't think we've heard yet, but make sure you go over to twitch.tv/AbbyHour and follow me there if you haven't already, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.